Hello, 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 coaches and leaders. I'm always excited to have guests, but this guest I am like extra pumped about because this is a dear friend of mine. Kim Hall we have been friends, Kim, since 2018,
Wow.
pre-pandemic. Kim, you and I have seen each other through thick and thin, right?
Hmm.
And really, and what I love about this episode is we are going to be talking about uh like like something that you and I regularly practice and help each other do, right?
Hmm.
So this is like very real life. Um and before we jump into the topic, I want you to share with everyone what do you do now? What was your kind of journey leading to what you do now and how you help folks in the
Sure.
world?
Yeah. So I went to Syracuse for illustration and education. So I have a bachelor's degree in both fine arts and education. And after college, I did some classroom teaching in art, and it was a hellscape. It was such a challenge to deliver like fabulous classroom goals, like actually have learning steps and have it be juicy. And it was so dumbed down that it was painful. And I wanted these kids to learn. I have this passion for learning. And so I left education. I was one of those teachers who was like, this system is broken. And I hear you talk about that on your podcast all the time. Like, teachers leave teaching, great teachers leave teaching. And I was one of those teachers. Um, and so I went to Southwest Florida, as you do, and I started doing murals and decorating professionally, like decorative painting, and started my own company and was working as a contractor and making great money, like decorating other people's gilded lilies. Like, the homes that I worked in were incredible. And then I looked around me at the like sort of the waste and the surface value of what I was doing. I was like, this is just it lacked integrity. Like there was a point where I was like, this just it didn't feel authentic. And one of my clients who had more money than God sent me up to New Hampshire to uh, do their house. And I painted, gilded, did murals through this house for 9 months. 9 months. And I fell in love with the area. And I was like, well, something's out of integrity. I'm going to change it. And so I moved up to New Hampshire. And then the economy tanked and nobody was decorating their home. Like, I mean, my people needed to be those kind of people. And for me to have a viable business. And so I went to work at a hospital and I started care management work, loving it. It filled my like social work type of mentality where I want to make a difference. And over the course of the years, I sort of merged those loves of art and sort of care management medicine, and I became a health coach. And so I went and became a certified health coach and worked in a primary care practice. And then I was like, well, I'm going to get my yoga teacher training certificate and I never thought I was going to teach yoga. But once I did, I was like, yes, and so now I own my own business teaching yoga and teaching art also. And so I'm back at this merging of worlds. And that's what I do. I also work with women's health and pelvic floor health and helping um, mostly women. But that's how you and I met, is in
Yeah.
this world of, starting our own businesses and like self, not improvement,
So,
development,
mhm,
self-development world,
yep.
and the transformative work that self-development offers us. And like you were one of my study buddies in one of
Yeah.
those courses, and we were study buddies, and we just became fast friends.
We
We've met
did.
each other in real life a couple times, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, so watching each other's businesses grow and change and shift.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I was doing retreats, yoga
Mm-hmm.
retreats.
Yep.
And then the pandemic happened, and I mean, nobody wants to go to Costa Rica in the
The
middle of a pandemic. I was
pandemic.
like, oh, this is it's so painful. So that's my business, and I still find myself bringing the education piece into my yoga teaching. I'm not
Hmm.
the kind of yoga teacher who's just align your chakras and
Right.
here's some lavender oil and let's breathe together. Like that's the same like toxic positivity nonsense I couldn't stand teaching elementary school.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, so that's where I'm at.
I love it. And yeah, I do love the way that you teach yoga because you're like grounded in I don't want to say reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like you're like sassy and like
Mm-hmm.
very and like real, right? That
Yeah.
like, doing yoga and mindfulness is actually about getting to reality. It's not
Right.
about escaping reality.
Right. And it's
Uh
like being comfortable in your own skin
yeah.
in this world,
Yeah.
not wishing it was different or wishing you were different. Like it gives you the tools to do that inner work.
Yeah. So I asked you on the podcast because over all the years that we've known each other, you have helped me grow a very specific ability that you I wanted you to share with everyone listening. Right? You've helped me so much. And so this ability is essentially like the ability to manage my emotions, thoughts, and behaviors so I could stay focused on supporting other people, I can make like intentional decisions, not just knee jerk decisions on what would help
Mm-hmm.
me feel good in the moment. And like to help, like essentially to help handle challenges, right? Challenges come
Yeah.
my way. And you are one of my go to people to be like, Kim, I feel terrible. Help me, please. Right. And you've just always done such a great job of knowing how to help me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like maintaining emotional control. So there's lots of words for this.
Groundedness.
Yes, in the yoga world, we'd call that
Yeah.
groundedness, and I actually definitely use that too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, everyone listening, I don't do yoga. Like I think yoga
She
is
hates it.
wonderful. I hate it. I hate yoga. So I'm not promoting yoga. There's a whole episode about how I hate yoga and how
There is.
I got like triggered by it. I think it's one of my
Because
earlier
some of it
episodes.
sucks. Some
Yeah.
yoga
Yeah.
classes and yoga studios,
Yeah.
you have to have this sense of belonging
Yeah, exactly.
within the
Yes.
culture.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about that because you and I have been talking about these five
Mm-hmm.
crucial mindsets we need.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is a belonging mindset. And
Belonging.
like that is a place I don't feel belonging is yoga.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so like thinking about groundedness, like in order to actually feel like I belong anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
I need to be in my body and be embodied
Mm-hmm.
and feel in this present moment, I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm present. My
Mm-hmm.
feet are on the ground. I'm connected to the earth with gravity. And I'm this small piece of something really, really big.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also a really big piece of a lot of different places and things and people and interaction. And so groundedness gets us right sized and it gets us in this present moment. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Once those are solved, then we can solve for other problems, more mental stuff. And then what I love, like, and then we can say, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
So once we know we're safe, we're present, then we can say, how do I feel? And then, am I ready to learn? Am I interested in this? And like, how is this relevant?
Mm-hmm.
And from there, but without that groundedness, it's just this mental ping pong ball of our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what yoga is designed for. Like, there's a Sanskrit term, which is one of the primary terms in yoga. It's called yoga chitta vritti nirodha. And yoga calms the fluctuations in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole physical practice of yoga, but also the spiritual practice of yoga, the intellectual practice of yoga,
Mm-hmm.
calms the fluctuations in the mind. And it starts by the breath, getting grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Simply breathe in, simply breathe out. and like sort of drop into gravity. And that's groundedness. And then once you're there, then you can go, what's next? But I feel like that growth mindset and self efficacy doesn't happen without being present.
Yeah.
Like, and then, like, if I'm not present, if I'm not in my body, I can't possibly feel like I belong.
Hmm.
I can't possibly think something has value for me because I'm so spacey and busy in my brain.
Hmm.
Like, my brain is so busy thinking about itself.
Hmm. Yep.
And how do I look? How do I sound? How do I,
Mhm.
what did I say? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I have done this or that? But
Hmm.
groundedness is like, pff, start where you are,
Hmm.
look around,
Hmm.
and then go.
So I want to for my intellectual folks that listen for information and you're like that is warm and fuzzy and I'm about to turn this
Mm-hmm.
episode off because I don't like this stuff. I'm going to speak to you right now. This has very real neurological implications.
Yes.
When we do not get time to get grounded,
Mm-hmm.
our brains do not function correctly. Here's a great example. I was coaching an assistant principal recently, and she was upset at a colleague who was continuously doing things that actually made her job harder
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again. And it, it and I was coaching her and she could not see any other
Mm-hmm.
options besides that this other person was terrible
Mm-hmm.
and how hard it was. She just couldn't. In a minute, we were like going for it and going. And I
Yeah.
finally stopped. I said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
and and she said, "I'm feeling tired." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "It does not sound like the issue is this other person right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is an issue we need to solve.
Right.
The
Right.
first thing you need to do is rest, come back, and then we'll finish our coaching
Mm-hmm.
conversation. When we get grounded, we literally, well, when we are ungrounded,
Mm-hmm.
we are accessing the part of our brain that is not smart.
Mm-hmm.
It is the part of our brain that keeps us well smart in some way. It keeps us alive,
Keeps us
but
alive.
but it's not good at like
Mm-mm.
of helping us do our jobs, right?
Right.
And so when we get grounded, we get better at our jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
when we don't get grounded, we suck at our jobs. And I just want
Right.
to like say it straight out like this.
Right.
This is
And
not, we don't
it's
get to,
neurochemical.
yeah, yeah,
It's dropping from your fight, flight, freeze, fawn response and
yeah,
that survival
yeah,
where you're just a frog in a tank, like trying to get out, trying to get out, trying to get out.
yeah,
And when you just take that moment, it activates your vagus nerve
mm-hmm,
and it balances your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system so
yeah,
that you can use your prefrontal cortex. You can use the rest of your brain.
mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah,
you have to like look at it, and I always bring dorky neurological and anatomical stuff into my classes
mm-hmm,
because without that, people would think like this is just airy fairy nonsense.
mm-hmm,
But this is electrochemical. This is
mm-hmm,
brain chemistry,
mm-hmm,
and I think that's powerful knowledge for those of us who constantly ask the question, why?
mm-hmm,
Why is this for me?
mm-hmm,
Why does this work?
mm-hmm.
Or to have that buy in. Like, I will not have buy in into something that I don't have faith in
Mm-hmm.
or have a basis in reality. Um, I mean, that said, I do have a few crystals and I do burn some Palo Santo. And
Yeah.
but there's a scientific, anatomical, physiological basis for the
Mm-hmm.
chakra system,
Yeah.
for the the philosophies of yoga and the science of yoga is so incredibly not keyed in with, but accurate according to science.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of it's not, but some of it is, and
Yeah.
that's why I love it. And I wouldn't do it if it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's science.
So, okay, I want to like kind of really hone in on examples here, right? So
Hmm.
the thing, I actually want to name this at this point. This thing we're talking about in yoga, you call it groundedness. In
Hmm.
education, we call this self-regulation. And
Yeah.
the huge mistake that we make around self-regulation is we think it's only for children.
Right.
We think we help children get regulated, but us adults were fine. And that is a lie. And I
Right.
know from all my years of experience, very regularly, adults in schools are getting dysregulated and not acknowledging that it's
Hmm.
dysregulation. How it
Hmm.
usually sounds is um that teacher's resistant.
Hmm. That principal sucks.
Yeah, that person sucks. I can't, they don't want anything. That
Hmm.
teacher's just waiting for retirement. Okay.
Hmm.
Dysregulation sounds like blame, sounds like
Hmm.
excuses, sounds like
Sounds like making
frustration.
somebody wrong,
Yep.
making
Yep.
somebody or something wrong, like
Yep.
putting a moral component to it.
Yep. It's all
Um,
dysregulation. Yeah.
mhm.
So
And
I
nobody
just,
calls a kid who's dysregulated bad
right.
anymore. Like we
Exactly.
don't do
Right.
that.
We don't do
So
it.
we can't do that with adults.
Exactly. And so for us to acknowledge self awareness is one of the most important aspects of
Hmm.
coaches and leaders. I want us to start acknowledging where in our world are we dysregulated. And I want to tell you how sneaky it is. I, for the past few months, I've been kind of before December, I've been working nonstop, flying bi coastally to the West Coast and East Coast weekly almost for months. And when I finally stopped in December to, have the break that everyone else did and rest, I realized I was operating on a low grade anxiety because I
Hmm.
finally got regulated. And I want to share this impact on me, right? Someone that like understands how this works. And Kim, I share this with you all the time. I kept saying, my brain works. I literally had more helpful thoughts about the work that I do since I got regulated. And it's so sneaky. I didn't even realize. If you asked me, Becca, how you doing? I would say I'm doing great. Right. Because I didn't realize the low grade anxiety I was feeling.
Hmm.
Um, it's just kind of throughout the days. And so I really want to recommend to everyone to stop moving for a moment. When you drive to your school or your office, just stop, like take 30 seconds in your car before you walk in and just take note. How are you feeling? Right. And if there's any sort of dysregulation, do something about it because you will suck less at your job.
Hmm. Well, I think even before asking yourself, how are you doing, grounding yourself in this present moment, I am safe, I am here. Like in this present moment, I'm simply in the teacher's parking lot. Boom, I have arrived.
Right.
And then from there, check on how you're feeling. Um, and I find people run into, I don't have time for that. I'm in a rush.
Yes.
Like you're already breathing. Like
Yes.
take a deep breath in, deep breath out. I am here in the teacher's parking lot. Now you're grounded. It doesn't have to be some drawn out ritual of groundedness or 15 minutes of meditation. Um, it's a snap, boom, like my feet are on the ground, and then there's forward motion.
The also, I do want to say this, that I don't have time for this is a lie.
Hmm.
Because, oh, I shouldn't say it's a lie, because when we say it, it actually is true for us in that moment.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's not actually how it happens. Maybe I'll say it that way.
Hmm.
When I say I don't have time to get grounded, I don't have time to regulate myself, I
Hmm.
waste time not being regulated so much
Right.
more. Time gets
Hmm.
taken in the reactive state,
Hmm.
much more time, by the way, when we're
Hmm.
dysregulated. It takes us much more time to be effective at our job than if we
Hmm.
be proactive and just get our brains accessing the right parts of our brains.
Hmm.
And I want to say this, I've been doing tons of research around mindsets and around how we think about getting unstuck there, right? And we know growth mindset. We all know about growth mindset. Way we think about improvement, right? I believe I can improve.
Hmm.
And we know about self-efficacy, right? I believe I can succeed. And there's more
Hmm.
mindsets I'll share another time. But what I'm noticing when I'm doing all this research is self-regulation is a through line through all
Hmm.
research shows and it's wild because it's cyclical. It's both, we need to be self-regulated to access these
Hmm. Right,
vital mindsets.
right,
And when we have those mindsets, when we're operating under those mindsets, it helps us be regulated.
right. It's a loop.
Yep. It's a loop.
It's a
That's
loop.
exactly it. Yeah. By the way, Kim, if you see me like staring off to the side, I have all my like posters, which you
Your
know about,
stickies.
my
Your
stickies. I have all
stickies.
these stickies because as I've been doing research, I look like a mad scientist, and I have all these like chart paper and
I
sticky
love
notes
it.
on my wall of like all these charts and connecting, there's arrows everywhere, connecting all the research. And every time I do research about another mindset,
Hmm.
self-regulation comes up again and again and again. And it is like, I
Hmm.
just can't tell you, it is a tool to help all
Hmm.
of those mindsets, right? We
Yeah.
believe, if you believe growth mindset is important and helpful to teach our students and for our staff to
Hmm.
have, we need to value self-regulation. They don't go
Hmm.
separate. You can't operate under growth mindset and be dysregulated.
Right.
Literally, they have to operate together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many coaches and leaders are out there with like extenuating circumstances where they're not feeling safe,
Mm-hmm.
like where
Yeah.
they're feeling financial stress or social stress or marital stress. And so they're not like, you can't have a growth mindset if at baseline your world is being rocked.
Yeah.
And I think um, so I think there's just such value in saying in this present moment I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
But and then from there you can go forward.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But we can't um, we can't discount that more human aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
that more human um, aspect of mindset for the people we work with in schools. You work with in schools. I work with in hospitals.
You
Oh my gosh.
do. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to say this too. I've been doing a lot of uh research on ownership. And
Mm.
this is, I'll share more in another episode, but really through research, I have kind of put together all this research and named the ownership mindset. And the ownership
Mm-hmm.
mindset requires three things. It's take the reins, believe it's possible, and own the outcome, right? So those are agency,
Mm-hmm.
optimism, and accountability. And to have optimism, which is believe it's possible, it is not thinking positively, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I can talk all the time about toxic
Yes.
positivity. We don't do that. We're not doing toxic positivity. It's not just think it'll be better. Optimism is believing it's possible. And so to like the relationship of self-regulation, I'm like reading off of my poster right now, um, is that we need okay, how do I say this? Okay, I want you to think about, everyone listening, I want you to think about the teacher that doesn't think the kids can do it and
Mm.
doesn't think it can get better. Well, this is just the way it is. Guess I have to put up with this group this year, right? We can help that teacher shift out of that, right? There's actual tools. And what I say, we need to grow their ownership mindset. And I mean, there's actually a bunch of tools, right? But the thing I want to tell you is step one is regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Research says they cannot, because they're in that state of this is just the way it is. There's dysregulation. They are
Mm-hmm.
upset and unhappy about the situation. They don't want it. They just don't think it's possible for it to get better. And so, what might look like a calm exterior, interior, there is some dysregulation. So, I really wanted to make a case for why this work is important for adults. And we know this podcast is about helping adults first.
Amen.
Yes. Okay. So I want to I want to jump into, so Kim, I would love you to have us actually experience an exercise around
Sure.
regulation, self-regulation. And I want to share with everyone, right? There's like things we can say to ourselves and remind ourselves, I am safe here, right? And things are okay. And then there's like the non-linguistic
Mm-hmm.
strategies that sometimes saying things to ourselves just isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Our amygdala is like, that's crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm unsafe, right? If you do
Yeah.
that, and there's sometimes like Kim, you've dealt with me so many times when I'm like, I don't believe it, right? We try to like say things, and my brain is on fire and cannot. So this is gonna sound like kind of like fluffy, warm, fuzzy, all the things. Bear with me, my intellectual peeps out there. Okay. This is very real, scientifically proven things to help you be better at your job. Okay. So I wanted to say this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lead us in an
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah. Super quick. Don't worry. It's going to be like 30 seconds or less.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
so yep, just put your feet on the floor, sit up tall. If you're comfortable, just close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, feel the back ribs expand, side ribs expand, chest, sternum. Then as you exhale, just feel everything soften and settle. Take a deep breath into the low belly, all the way down to the pelvis and low back. Feel that expand. And then exhale. Notice how the breath kind of comes back to center. There's a little density that happens as you exhale. So as you inhale, breathe into any place that feels tight or constricted. And as you exhale, soften into the places you just expanded with breath. With the next breath in, imagine drawing it up from the ground through the body, filling the ribs, filling the chest, all the way to the crown of the head. And then as you exhale, notice what you feel from the top of the head all the way down through the column of the body, down through your feet to the earth. We'll do that 3 more times. Inhale, drawing energy maybe up from the ground through the body to the crown of the head. And exhale, send it down. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, pulling the breath, the energy up through the body to the crown of the head. And exhale, drop in. And I think we have 1 more. Deep breath in. And let it go. Float the eyes open. Notice where you are. Ah, there
That was
you go.
lovely. So the thing that I'm noticing is not only do I feel better, I I don't know if anyone else had this experience, but I started having ideas
Mm,
as I was breathing. My
mm-hmm,
brain does not shut off easily. I wasn't just
mm-hmm,
thinking of nothing. I was, ugh. But I had what I love about breathing is it helps me have ideas I otherwise wouldn't have.
mm-hmm,
That's what it mean. Like that's what I mean by it helps me be better at my job,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I just love that. There's this great scene. There's a Netflix. There's a show called Man on the Inside. It's with Ted Danson, and it is a
Oh, I've
comedy,
seen.
and it is so funny. And there's a woman that runs a senior home, and she when she gets stressed out, she goes into her office, closes the blinds, puts on headphones, puts on headphones with the sound of the ocean, and lays under her desk. That's what she does. And every single scene, she lays there and she breathes with the ocean. And then every time she does it, she sits up bolt right, bolt. What do you call
Bolt
that?
upright.
Bolt upright. She sits up straight and she always like has her eyes wide open and she always has an idea
Yeah,
right out of that. And so
yeah.
it kind of makes me think of that, right? Like
Mm-hmm,
literally we can have better ideas when we do this. So
yeah.
Kim, thank you so much for coming, for like sharing and bring us through an exercise and just sharing from your own varied experiences about
Mm-hmm,
how getting regulated and grounded helps us as humans, as professionals, as
mm-hmm.
husbands and wives,
Right.
um, and daughters. So
Like
thank you
one
again.
thing. So one thing I want to finish with is, that thing, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Yes.
And I forget whether it was you who said, I no, I think it was my friend at work said, would you rather be right or would you rather be effective?
I said that. I'm taking full credit for that. It was
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And I think that's we're in this to be effective.
Yeah,
And within that, we have a lot of tools.
exactly.
So,
So, Kim, you do awesome work around yoga and like
hmm
virtual trainings,
hmm
which I love. You can do it
hmm
anywhere. So can you share with everyone where can they find you, find out more about you and your yoga practice?
Sure. So I just recently rebranded, and my website is flourishingthird.com. So basically, flourishing in life past midlife. I'm 54, and most of my clients are older adults. So flourishingthird.com, and you can find me online there. And I also teach at Mighty Yoga, and so mightyyoga.com. And
Ooh, I love
I'm
this.
also starting a couple art classes on my platform too. So yeah,
Okay,
that's
awesome.
where you
So
can find me
we'll put all those links in the show notes so folks can just
on
click on it. Yeah,
Insta,
yeah.
YouTube. I'm all over the place.
We'll put all those links so they can find you, follow you. You always have like inspirational quotes up and also announcements about all of your offerings. So
Mhm.
I love it so much. So thank you so much, Kim, for hanging out with me as usual. This was awesome. And yeah, we'll send folks
Thanks, Becca.
to hang out with you too.
Thanks for doing the work you do.
Yeah.